So this is my. I don't know him personally. Okay, I gotta turn that off. All YouTube. Right, okay, so this is one of the people that I look up to in the world. His name's Durante Lamar. He was in it for a while, and he got out. We're gonna find out what it is, even though you can probably tell by the title. Give Durante Lamar a follow. Go check out some of his videos. And this is a very important message.
Heaven is a place for sociopaths. Let me cook. What kind of people would celebrate after a bloodbath? Who would throw a party and worship the one who was responsible for the bloodbath? This isn't the setup for a horror movie. This is literally Christianity at its peak. What it looks like when it wins according to its own literature. When Christianity wins, believers often see that victory not as the triumph of love, but as a day of bloody vengeance coupled with eternal celebration. So
Yeah. So check this. I don't have anything to add because he really gets into it. It's a 24-minute video.
So here's the question. Why would a loving person want to spend eternity celebrating while knowing that others are being perpetually tortured? And why would anyone call that heaven or them good? For many believers, the longing for heaven isn't rooted in love, growth, or purpose. It's rooted in avoidance. It's not about becoming something greater, but escaping something unbearable. Heaven promises to remove pain, not to transform it, to silence questions, not to answer them. It becomes less about connection with the divine and more about relief from human experience, a divine anesthesia that numbs the ache of existence. No more pain, no more tears. It sounds comforting, but it also implies no more depth, no more friction, no more evolution.
Everything that I've come to know to love as a human, all the traits that I associate with humanity, gone forever.
It's not a place to live forever, it's a place to hide forever. Faith traditions often sell heaven as a final answer, the end of questioning. Certainty becomes the idol. But if curiosity, doubt, and growth are what makes consciousness meaningful, then heaven's static perfection sounds more like psychological death than any type of spiritual fulfillment. It's the end of all becoming, a place where you are frozen in one emotional state forever. The promise of heaven also
Then they say yours. They'll say I've been told. I don't know that heaven is just as close to God as one can get, right? Or you get to share the kingdom with, and that's
lets believers outsource moral accountability. You don't have to fix the world, you just survive it faithfully. You don't have to make peace with your enemies. God will handle that later. Heaven, in this framing, becomes a cosmic deferment of justice. It absolves the believer of participating in the messy, difficult work of compassion right here on earth. The image of heaven as endless worship, singing, bowing, praising, it may sound holy, but it's psychologically revealing. It's the ultimate compliance fantasy, perfect submission without fatigue, joy without individuality, obedience without question. It's not love, it's submission under divine surveillance.
I would also like to add that some of the most judgmental, horrible people I've ever met in my life personally uh, assign themselves to one's faith or another. They feel. eh, Now I don't say this to imply that I am not judgmental because I am, but I'm no one. I'm just a dude. I have no power. I'm not in charge of hiring people or making decisions for anyone. And so my judgment's meaningless, right? But it's these people who are in positions of power whose judgment is probably that your evil are in charge of whether you get hired, whether you get an apartment, and then they mask themselves with corporations now. If you look into how the LDS moves specifically, you'll see what I'm talking about.
It's God's own version of how to train your bottoms. So when we strip away the poetry and promises, what's left isn't love for a God, it's fear of the alternative. It's the desperation of someone clinging to the only story that promises safety. And that, my friends, is not devotion, that's dependency. A spiritual codependence where God is the abuser, heaven is the reconciliation fantasy, and hell is the threat that keeps you from leaving. When I
I've always said this before I even discovered Mr. Durante Lamar. I've always said that it seems like a very abusive relationship. It seems like Munchausen by proxy to turn to the people who create these problems for the solution. Of course, I mean, yeah, they're going to have a solution. They made all the problems, but by submitting to them to solve the problems that they create, it justifies their existence entirely. I've always said this.
say heaven is a place for sociopaths, I'm not just saying it for shock value. I know it sounds like an insult, but it's not meant to mock believers. It's meant to interrogate the moral logic of what's being celebrated. Because if we strip away the emotional comfort and look at it rationally, the core idea of heaven, eternal joy existing alongside eternal suffering, is a contradiction that only works if you suspend empathy. It forces a question few dare.
And that goes to the first point that I was trying to make is that they don't judge out of empathy. They judge out of superiority. They come down on you always. They're always coming down on you. And for what? To put you down even further. It's always that. It's always to humble you. For some reason, you're never humble enough, and they're the humblest despite all the advantages they've been given.
To ask, how could a moral being experience eternal bliss knowing that others are in endless agony? The moment you ask that question, the facade of moral coherence starts to crumble. Eternal joy in the Christian framework is presented as a reward, but a reward for what? For obedience, for loyalty, for believing the right things while others did not. It's joy that requires someone else's exclusion, a happiness made possible because someone else.
And that's exactly it. It comes down to exclusion. That they feel like leave. Well, I don't know how they feel. I can't speak for these people, but it seems as if they the entire point is to keep you outside of the group until then. That the first step is to lay absolute fealty and admonishment down to them and their group first and foremost and always.
Else didn't make it. That's not universal love, that's tribal triumph. And that's where the sociopathic parallel comes in. To enjoy heaven, you must learn to feel nothing for the condemned. To find peace, you must silence compassion. That's moral detachment disguised as righteousness. In this model, empathy isn't rewarded, it's punished. Because empathy would ruin the experience. If heaven is truly perfect, then you can't be troubled by the screams of the damned. You can't grieve the friends.
And as he'll get into later, you can't even love here properly if you think that there's something better than here promised to you. You know, if you feel like you're going to be somewhere better than this no matter what, because you're a good little faithful boy, you're not gonna really actually try here. Because here's a place to just extract wealth from and subjugate other people. Because remember that too. Slavery is promoted in the Bible.
Or family family who didn't make it, you can't mourn the injustice of eternal suffering. You must call it divine order. That means heaven's peace depends on one's ability to emotionally disassociate from suffering, an ability psychologists call moral disengagement. In essence, the gates of heaven don't just filter out sinners, they filter out our feelings as well. If you designed a society where its citizens could only be happy by ignoring pain, that society would not be moral. It would be pathological. That's what sociopathy is, the severing of empathy from identity. In psychological terms, it's the capacity to rationalize harm or injustice in service to a higher ideal, to say it's okay because it's God's will. That's what makes the premise.
And then they'll go and say they don't know what's God's will, but they're enacting God's will. It's always been a weird argument to me. Because if you ask these people, oh well, you can't claim to know God's will, but you are, aren't you? Or isn't that the whole? You think you're enacting God's will based on your interpretation of a book written by some other person a long time ago who couldn't even probably comprehend this right here, this communication that we're doing. And if you explained it to them in vast detail, they would imagine it very differently than what it is. If you told them, listen, I'm electrifying rocks to send signals into space. They wouldn't even. There's no way anyone from the past could comprehend a computer transmitting data to another computer in a way that you would be able to explain. There's no. Yeah, there's no comprehension for this right now. For until it existed right now, like you'd have to be. There's like to yeah to immediately transmit data from a computer to another computer through the internet would be inexplicable to these people. And you're telling me that they wrote a book that explains everything? No way I can believe that. And I hope that there's no way you could believe it too. Please work on your critical thinking. I'm not going to watch his whole video. I think you should go watch it though. It's Heaven is a Place for Sociopaths by Mr. Durante Lamar, and I think it's worth checking out. Uh, thanks for watching. I'm going to end this here for now.